exclusive presentation of the LSU Sports Radio Network. Welcome in to the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Download the ASAP app today. Coming up, head coach Brian Kelly discusses the week ahead for LSU Fighting Tiger football. But first, from inside the Capital One LSU Sports Radio Network studios, here are former Tiger Gordy Rush and the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
Good Monday morning. Welcome in to the Brian Kelly Press Conference. And boy, right out of the gate, just got to celebrate a little bit. LSU goes to Gainesville. Fourth time in a row, they've handed the Florida Gators a loss. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to turn our focus to later on this week with a big matchup at Tiger Stadium. But we've got time for that before we get you up to 12 noon. And head coach Brian Kelly in this week's press conference, Gordy Rush, we just got to celebrate. I mean, I was excited. Always great to leave Gainesville with a win. I've got a pretty good record there, which I'm very proud of.
I know you do.
And happy to tell everybody, especially Florida Gator fans. But, again, in all seriousness, a great win for Coach Kelly and these Tigers. Just a great performance. I think a lot of things we can talk about, the numbers. I'm sure Coach Kelly will as well. It's just a great team performance. I told Doug Morrow at the end of the game, not every phase of the game was clean. Not every phase of the game was perfect. But it was really a solid team win in a tough environment where you knew Florida – I know it's a first-year coach and Billy Napier, but he's heard it. They've lost 3 in a row to LSU. Florida's starting to lose that home field advantage against the Tigers, who have had a lot of success in Gainesville. So they wanted to win this game, and LSU just didn't allow it. And for that, I applaud Coach Kelly and the Tigers. Way to go. How about them Tigers?
Absolutely. How about them Tigers? How about that LSU offense? To me, that's certainly one of the storylines. This offense that struggled the last 2 weeks against Auburn and Tennessee to get going. All of a sudden, they were clicking on all cylinders. And finally, this outstanding core of receivers and quarterback Jaden Daniels, they were on the same page. The Tiger passing game was fantastic, and it opened up the whole offense.
Absolutely. I mean, Jaden Daniels, without question, his best performance as a Tiger, really had good command of the offense. His offensive line, I think their best performance, albeit the 6 combination through 7 games. But it was great to have Will Campbell back, who was named co-offensive lineman of the week by the SEC just a little earlier today. And it looked like he had time to throw and was more comfortable going through the progressions and letting the routes develop and then delivering the football. This stands out to me, Gordy. We can talk about the overall numbers, which, again, were impressive. 349 yards passing on Saturday night. There were 4 receptions for LSU against the Gators of 20 yards or more. Now, against Tennessee, the results weren't the same, but Coach Kelly said, I want to take a few more shots. We've got to be more aggressive. He had 4 passes for 20 yards or more. You look at the Auburn game, 1. Mm-hmm. Mississippi State, both good wins, also just 1. So, again, inside that little sample size, the progression over the last 4 weeks is what Coach Kelly and this offense has asked for, and Jaden Daniels delivered, and for that, he should be applauded. An excellent game. And, oh, by the way, he happened to finish that game with 6 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 3 passing. Only one other guy's done that, and his name's Joe Burrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, LSU came out and they threw the football to set up the run. And that was the beautiful thing about getting Jenkins and Thomas Jr. down the sideline, getting them extended. And when you beat the defensive backs like that a little bit, then the defensive coordinator's got to change up, back up, and respect the pass. And that opens up the running game. He's got to take numbers out of the box to play against the pass. And, hey, a lot of people, except Coach Kelly, did give him a game ball. But not talking about Josh Williams, 14 carries, 106 yards, 7.6
amazing
per carry. That's fantastic.
Yeah, had the big 50-yard run, which good for him. I mean, you could see. I mean, the guy is an SEC all scholastic. I mean, he's on the dean's list. He does everything right. Former Walker. He's just a great story. And to see him kind of develop over the last several years and get those opportunities. He talked to Patrick Wright on the radio down in the locker room and said, the biggest thing about having the opportunities to carry the ball 14 times tonight is that my coaching staff trust me. They
Sure.
have confidence in me. And you can tell, and Coach Kelly talks about it all the time, confidence breeds success. And they had the confidence in Josh Williams, who certainly delivered last night. Want to flip and talk about the defense a little bit because obviously, as I said, special teams were not perfect once again. There was a costly penalty. Obviously, there was another costly mishandle on a punt. But you did have the Damian Ramos 47-yarder, which I think was so huge, kind of put the game on ice for the most part, gave you some insurance points late in that game. But defensively, they got put on their heels a little early. Obviously, the 47-yard kick return to start the game, then the 51-yard pass for a touchdown for Florida, 2 plays into the game, and suddenly you're reeling a little bit. Your thoughts on the defense as the game wore on against a guy who we know in Richardson who can make plays if you let him?
I thought Matt House called an excellent game, and as the game went on, he adjusted. And some of the big things that he did, he was able to keep Richardson in the pocket and contain him. And we talked about that on the broadcast. You don't want your defensive line taking shots and going after him. If they do that, it opens up a natural crease. If you get too vertical up the field, it's more of what they call a cage rush or just a contained rush. And if he gets outside the pocket, I thought there was one situation where Ollie Gay did a great job of facing him man-to-man like a basketball player would, guarding him and keeping him in front of him and making him throw the football. Richardson's a tremendous athlete. He's a little inaccurate as a passer, 15 of 25, and we saw a couple high fastballs at some, that were away from receivers that really were able to get LSU off the football field. I thought the adjustments were excellent, and then in the fourth quarter, when Richardson had to make plays and they had to score points, they put Harold Perkins Jr. as a spy right over Richardson. And again, we talked about it in the broadcast. That was fun to see. You had 2 incredible athletes basically playing, it's 10 on 10, and they're playing man-to-man against each other. And Perkins did a great job defending Richardson.
Yeah, Micah Baskerville also, again, led the team with 11 tackles, had a well of a game, made a great deflection where he was not in position. He wasn't covering. He was just on that side of the field and was able to go up and deflect that pass. Harold Perkins Jr., it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch him now, but it's going to be a lot of fun as this guy, I don't know how high the ceiling is going to be, but it's going to be fun to watch him get there.
You think about the great linebackers that LSU's had here that can run. Queen, Debo Jones, Devin White. He reminds you of those guys. He moves so fast. Got to be a 4-4 guy.
You mentioned the way LSU went after Richardson, again, not necessarily trying to give up a lane and just try to keep him in the pocket. Coach Kelly said on Thursday last week, in fact, he said it last Monday, that this Florida offensive line would be one of the better ones we face this year. And I thought the defensive front, wreaked a lot of havoc that affected what Richardson was able to do.
Yeah, especially after the first 2 series. And I think Florida came out sky high, and they played really well, and they were feeding off that adrenaline of playing at home. And then after the LSU answered the second score, LSU's defense settled down. And I thought those guys up front, Roy and Wingo and Gay, and then Savion Jones, when he came in to spell Gay, I thought they played fantastic and a great job defending the Florida run. And we talked about it last week on this show. Florida had 3 ball carriers, including Richardson, the quarterback, that averaged over 6 yards a carry. And I think they were a 3-point something, if I remember the total average. You take out Richardson, of course, with the big one. They kept them around 4 yards on the running backs, and that's really a job well done. Richardson had the big run that kind of threw everything off, but for the longest time, they had him about 4 yards rushing.
One of the things that stood out, again, in the 45-35 victory was the efficiency of the offense and the utilization by Jaden Daniels for all of the weapons. We talked about the running game. We talked about when he ran the football, rushing for 3 touchdowns. Getting everybody involved offensively out on the corner and down the field. LSU was 67% on third down, which is huge. When you get that or higher on the road, chances are you're going to win that football game. Not only were they able to convert on third down, Gordy, but this number stands out. Patrick Wright, kudos to him. He gave it to us during the broadcast. They had 8 third down conversions, 165 yards on those plays. That's just under 21 yards per play on third down. Story
of the game right there. That's unbelievable. And Coach Napier talked about that in his post-game press conference. They did a bad job on third down. That'll win you a lot of football games. Look, for me, the offense was crisp, and the crispest it's been all season. And Daniels' recognition was excellent. Coach Kelly's talked about on these press conferences, trying to get him to see consistently what they're seeing. And I'll take you through the whole zone read package. So many times he did a great job on the zone read of reading the defensive end. If he comes down the line of scrimmage, you pull the ball out and you ran. And you saw how many times Daniels was able to do that. And then there were times they would read him, and they'd read, as a part of that progression, you read the linebacker. If he plays run, then you throw the slant. How many slants did we see him hit? Neighbors in Butte. That was, again, as crisp as LSU's been offensively, and I thought Daniels did a great job in recognition.
One of the things it looked like from where we were, you had a better vantage point on the field. It looked like, again, giving credit to the offensive line, that even though Florida, for the most part, threw a couple of blitz, for the most part on the night, 4-man rush, that the line was holding. It wasn't such a surge that got the pocket tight early.
That's correct.
And I think that allowed Jaden to settle down a little bit and be able to find the open man, and as I said, allow the routes to progress. The last thing I wanted to talk about, highlight this receiving core, again, making plays in the passing game. But when the Tigers got loose on the ground, watching those guys block downfield, it was really great to see. The touchdown that Jaden had where he went left, I think a 9-yard score, cut back across the field, got in the right corner. Jeray Jenkins takes the guy completely out of the play. That leaves a one-on-one matchup for Daniels, which he wins. Otherwise, there's 2 Gator defenders down there.
And look, I think we've talked, it's been said in the last couple of weeks, as a receiver, you get frustrated you're not catching the football. And there was some frustration out there, and it's a new offense, new coordinator, new quarterback, all of that. That wasn't the case against Florida, and I think that's why I started getting a little bullish on the Tigers.
Yes.
Because these are the leaders of your football team. When 7 starts going, Butte gets going, everybody feels it. When Neighbors gets going and Jenkins and the stuff that he's done, those guys start making plays. It affects the whole team, and that's that's what happened. It all kind of steamrolled for LSU.
The other great thing about the game, it was all smiles in the press box, I can assure you, on our radio team, winning in Gainesville. But watching those sidelines, really, from start to finish, and it wasn't a perfect start to the game, it looked like the Tigers were having fun.
Yes.
And that was everybody on the field and on the sideline. So, again, great win for the Tigers. Always good to beat Florida, 45-35, the final in Gainesville. The Tigers now make it 4 in a row, and they put up more offensive numbers yard-wise than they have against any Florida team in the history of that rivalry. And by the way, it's now even, 33-33-3.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that? All right, coming up, we'll go to Coach Brian Kelly. He's going to talk about the Florida game, but Gordy, he's obviously going to then turn quickly to the big matchup this weekend. Ole Miss comes to town, undefeated on the year, 2:30 kickoff. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll kind of get Gordy's thoughts on the Rebels. It's the Brian Kelly press conference. A reminder, fans, you make sure you download the ASAP app. Get all of your game day needs delivered right to your door. Easy as that. ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. We talk LSU Ole Miss right after this when we come back.
Albertsons is making shopping and saving easier than ever. Check out Albertsons For You in our mobile app, where you can shop for groceries and save weekly with digital coupons all in one place. With Albertsons For You, you can earn rewards points every time you shop and redeem them for free groceries. Brand new Albertsons For You members receive $5 off their next $25 purchase just for signing up. Download the Albertsons app or go to albertsons.com to sign up. Albertsons, fresh food, local flavors.
Support your LSU Tigers with Hancock Whitney, the official bank of LSU Athletics. From game day to the offseason, Hancock Whitney LSU credit and debit cards are a big win for any Tiger fan. Want to get your paws on these cards? Well, apply online or visit HancockWhitney.com/LSU. Hancock Whitney Bank, member FDIC. All accounts subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions may apply.
He's got a seam. He's down the near side hash.
Tiger fans, if you've ever wanted to listen to the LSU Sports Radio Network while watching your Fighting Tigers on TV, now you can, and it's easy to do.
Just pause the TV. Use the LSU Sports mobile app to stream the audio on your smartphone or tablet. Connect to a smart speaker, then wait for the audio to catch up to the point your TV is paused. Push play, and you are all set.
Watch the Tigers and listen with the LSU Sports Radio Network and the LSU Sports mobile app.
15, 10, 5, touchdown! Tigers!
In the SEC, we sweat the small stuff. The attention to tradition. The preparation for competition. The smallest things can have the biggest impact. on this field and a whole host of other fields. To shine among the brightest stars, you have to sweat the small stuff. Because here, it just means more.
Coach Kelly is just moments away from previewing the week for the Fighting Tigers. This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Once again, here are Gordy and Chris.
This Saturday, rivalry renewed. Ole Miss comes to Tiger Stadium to take on your Fighting Tigers. Rebels roll in 7-0. 3-0 in SEC play. Got the win over Auburn this past Saturday, but it was, I don't know that it was an easy win. 48-34 they pulled away. Had a little weather delay there in the fourth quarter. Eventually, Lane Kiffin and company get the win. But it was an interesting game to watch, Gordy. I know you watched it. I watched it. The story going into the week last Saturday was, all right, Ole Miss still trying to find themselves offensively. It's not what you think of with a Lane Kiffin offense, simply because I don't think Dart has lived up to the type of quarterback that we've seen in the past. But they're a running team, and they run very well, and they use everybody that's eligible to run the football. They're involved in the run game for Ole Miss. But defensively, that was the story. That Lane Kiffin's got him a defense now, which makes him difficult. And that is true. But Auburn found some holes.
They sure did.
And they looked a little porous on Saturday.
Yeah, they sure did. Tank Bigsby broke off a couple big runs there, and Auburn was able to get back in the football game, make it interesting. It was 28-24 right before halftime. Look, DJ Durkin was a fine defensive coordinator and really had Ole Miss's defense playing better, and he left to go to Texas A&M, so new on that side of the football. And also so many new faces. I mean, a lot of people don't realize Ole Miss had 17 transfers come in via the portal route, including both linebackers, a TCU transfer, and Kari Coleman and Troy Brown from Central Michigan. So I think a lot like the offense, Chris, you have a lot of new faces trying to put it all together. They are 7-0. The schedule hasn't necessarily been the toughest. Probably the most impressive win was a win, I believe, 22-19 over Kentucky, in which Kentucky
refused to win it.
Right, was their own worst enemy with, I believe, 3 turnovers, a missed field goal, 2 missed PATs. Just an awful afternoon for Kentucky there. So this Ole Miss team, obviously good. Kiffin is a fantastic coach. They're 7-0, but they're not gelling quite the way this team did last year that went to the Sugar Bowl.
You know, Coach Brian Kelly was on this morning on SEC this morning with Peter Burns and Chris Doring, or I should say Chuckles the Clown.
Chuckles the Clown. I saw him.
And one of the interesting things that Coach Kelly talked about, obviously a lot of respect for Lane Kiffin. He said, hey, look, this is a coach who not only is going to put his offense and his touch around the players and personnel he has based on who can perform, but also he is just a stereotypical, we will take what the defense gives you. And if you give them you want to play coverage, you want to back off, then they're gonna run the football, and they have, and they've ran it effectively. But if you then decide, all right, let's put 8 in the box,
right,
let's stop the run, then you got to worry about the passing game. The question becomes Jackson Dart. From what you've seen, again, what are his strengths and maybe what are his weaknesses? He's got 11 passing touchdowns, but 6 INTs.
Yeah, right. He's made some mistakes, no question about it. He was a nice 4-star recruit out of the state of Utah. He was a dual threat guy. Didn't work out for him at USC. He came over there, and again, he's gelling with new people. You've got Malik Heath, that's one of their wide receivers, came from MSU. Trigg followed him. Michael Trigg's the tight end. He's from USC. And Mingo, probably their best receiver, was there on the roster. So 3 new faces. Look, Ole Miss has been successful because they've been able to run the football. And again, similar to last week against Florida, I think that's going to be a big key for LSU defensively.
Again, taking nothing away from Ole Miss. They're 7-0,
yes.
3-0 in the SEC. They're a top 10 team as we stand here going into this matchup. But obviously the questions come up about who they've played. They got a win over Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, who was not the Georgia Tech we see now.
No.
It was Jeff Collins' Georgia Tech that they played week 3 of the season. Tulsa, again, Kentucky had every chance to win that game, but they got the win over the Wildcats. Beat Vanderbilt 52-28, and then as we said, really had to outscore Auburn on Saturday 48-34. I know it's easy to sit here as the opposing team and say, well, they haven't played anybody, but we'll see on Saturday.
Yeah, step up in competition for the Rebels.
All right, let's go now to the Lawton room, and here he is, head coach Brian Kelly. See you, Gordy, on Saturday.
See ya.
Certainly a great atmosphere at the Swamp. Our guys needed to think about the right things going into that game. I thought that they were confident. I thought they thought about how to win the game. I thought that they maintained that throughout the game, even though there was some adversity. I thought they kept their emotions in check. I think those are really important. I think I talked about those last week. When you go on the road, you have to eliminate distractions, and from all the things that go on in pregame, during the game, there's a lot of distractions. I thought they did a very good job. I think the sideline was excellent. Guys really being positive with each other during the game. Those all go to, getting through the highs and lows of a game when you're on the road and the crowd's involved in it. So proud of our football team and the way they managed themselves and handled themselves in that situation. And then, offensively, we executed very well. Defensively, we came up with some stops when we needed them. Clearly on the offensive side of the ball, we've got to eliminate some mistakes up front. We've got to be cleaner. And I think defensively it's pretty clear it's the big play, eliminating the big plays. But, again, execution-wise, our best performance offensively, and then we'll look to build on that in terms of consistency of performance, and then defensively, cleaning up the big plays. I think that's it. And, special teams, I think we'll all see the same thing. First play of the game, we let the ball outside the defense. We've got to contain it on a kickoff, and then, we muff a punt. So, those guys know they have to, obviously be accountable, and, we've got to put them in a position to succeed. We'll keep coaching it, and we know we've got to get better there. So, move on to Ole Miss. Obviously, another top 10 team coming into the stadium. And we're excited about the challenge. It's an outstanding football team, well coached. Lane does a great job with, obviously, the offense, but overall, a very confident football team. Been playing well, undefeated. It's an offense that is, systematic in its play calling, what they're trying to do. The pieces fall together quite nicely. And very talented. The quarterback, is a true double threat quarterback. Dart can throw it. He can run. He's complemented with two outstanding backs, big receivers, and a very, very balanced attack. They can run it equally as well as they throw it. And so I have a lot of respect for what they do. Defensively, they're in, a three-down defense. We don't see a ton of what they do. They do what they do well. I think they get pressures. I think they're second in the SEC in sacks. So difficult sometimes to know where they're coming from. We'll have to do a really good job with protections, scanning, and taking care of our quarterback. So excited to be at home. I know our guys want to obviously play well at home before our home fans. And, again, look forward to another challenge for an SEC top 10 team. So with that, we'll open up to questions.
Hey, Brian. I'm going to start on a lighthearted note. Saw you on the SEC Network this morning. Could you see Chris Doering? How did you keep a straight face through?
I could see him. Yeah. Yeah, I just.
Did you know that was coming?
I had no idea. No, I didn't know that he was going to dress like a clown. But I think if you keep betting, you get what you deserve there. Because I think he's 0 for 4. In that situation, I think Pete should just up the ante, at this point, and make sure that there's no dress that he comes out in next time. then there won't be any more betting.
Not every coach probably would have played along. I mean, but you seem like you're someone who's like, hey, look, this is a hard business, and you have to make a lot of sacrifices. You can enjoy yourself once in a while. I mean, is that kind of the attitude you like to have?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many rivalries, right, in this conference between, this is another rivalry game, the Magnolia Trophy. Come on now. Get me first time, right? You're not going to get me a second time. But, there's just so many different rivalries, and, those two obviously have them. We saw Marcus Spears had a friendly bet with somebody. I was made aware of that. So, it's just, there's such passion in college football, and especially down here in the SEC. I love watching that, and so it just makes sense to allow them to continue to have those kinds of inside bets, and I can play along for a few minutes.
Hey, Brian, you coached against Lane Kiffin, obviously, when he was at SC. You were at Notre Dame. It's been 10 years. But
yeah.
What's it like to coach against him? How much maybe has he changed from then to now?
Well, he's a creative coach offensively, and they always have been cutting edge in terms of what they do. And he's a guy that gets his team playing hard. I mean, they play hard. Offensively, there's always an answer to what you do in game as well. But I think more importantly, they scout you out. I mean, you better know your own self-scouting and where your tendencies are, because he's going to really dial in on if there's anything that you do. If you do anything defensively, he is going to analyze that and have an answer for it. So you got to be very good at your self-scout.
Hey, Coach, this past game you fall behind 7-0. You've got a 3rd and long, and Daniels makes that deep throw to Booty. Are you a believer in a play like that when you make it early on? Does a lot for your confidence in terms of, moving forward? If you don't make that play, maybe you don't have the success that you had?
Yeah, look, we've been at this, this had been the 7th game, and we have been confronted with those situations and haven't made them. But I don't think that there was any hesitation that we wouldn't go back to it, because those two have been working hard in practice and trying to build that, that relationship where, we find you. And if you remember in that situation, he kind of found some green grass, and he was going to be the primary on that play, and Jaden got flushed out of the pocket, but he kept his eyes looking for him, and it was really the first time when those two found each other, if you will, in terms of, getting the ball. And then that drive, quite frankly, we had a lot of mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes. That drive ended up in the end zone because of those two guys. They made big plays, and that's what sometimes you need, is your big-time players have to step up. And I think that was the first time this year that our best players stepped up to that level and made plays.
Just after the film review, I guess that's kind of my question. Do you feel like that was a step up for the entire team offensively, or was it just the next step?
Yeah, I think it's got to be part of what we continue to grow towards. There's going to be times where guys just got to step up and make plays, and we had been kind of grinding it out, like, we were trying to fight for every blade of grass, and sometimes you just got to make some plays. The big touchdown, throw to Jeray Jenkins. They jump offside. That's part of our offense. Take a shot down the field. Maybe early in the year we throw that out of bounds. So just staying at it and being consistent with coaching it, and then telling our guys that, look, sooner or later we got to step up and make these plays, and they did on Saturday. And now we've got to be consistent at it. You can't do it one week and then turn it off the next week and expect to win.
Yeah, hey, Coach, right over here. Second top 10 team you guys welcome here in 2 weeks. Just what lessons can you take away from maybe the last time you played a top 10 team here, and just whether it's in preparation, whether it's in focus, mentality, just what kind of lessons can you take away from that last one?
Well, each week this team is learning so much and growing. Unfortunately, they learned from the Tennessee loss, and nobody really wants to be learning lessons after a loss, but they learned a lot about intentionality and purpose in terms of their preparation, and we saw that during the week, and it carried over to the way they played on the road. I think then you win on the road in the fashion that they did, you build more confidence in your football team. So I think 2 weeks later, it's, I don't want to say a different team, but it's a team that has confidence. It's a team that knows that if they don't play clean, if they don't have an attention to detail, they'll have similar results that they did against Tennessee. So I guess what I'm saying is that it's not a different team, but it's a team that has grown from the last couple of weeks. And if they take that knowledge into their preparation this week and into the game and their performance, then we should have one really fine football team.
Hey, Coach, over here to your left. Can you talk about, what you saw from the DB room this past weekend and just how much they progressed in SEC play?
I thought, there were some good things, things that we got to continue to work on. Obviously, big plays, we got to tackle better. I think it starts there. Obviously we gave up a big play early on, right out of the gates. We got to stay on top of the coverage there. So it's kind of a mixed bag right now. I'd like to stand up here and tell you that everything's great, and we're ready to, enshrine them all into the College Football Hall of Fame, but that's just not the case. I mean, it's work in progress, and we got to continue to get better at both, the corner and safety and nickel position. But I think it starts with the fundamentals, leverage, staying on top of the football, and tackling, quite frankly. This is, I don't want to make it simple, but it's not that hard. We've got to get better in the fundamentals. If we get better in the fundamentals, we'll be better on the back end of our defense.
Brian, over here. Will Campbell received SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week.
Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
When was the last time you remember in your career playing two freshman offensive tackles on the line, and why don't true freshmen typically play in this position?
I don't think I ever have, but I'm having a hard time, with last week in memory. So 32 years, 33 years. I don't believe I've ever started two freshmen, period, on an offensive line, but to have two tackles in the SEC is quite unusual. Again, I think I talked about this last week. It's not necessarily the physical, although they have the physical, because you cannot play in this league unless you have physical traits. These guys are too fast, they're too big, they're too strong. They'll walk you back to the quarterback if you're not physically strong enough. And Emory Jones and Will Campbell physically have the traits to go in the weight room and be as strong as anybody that we have, and are able to move their feet to obviously get out and set these guys. They're going to miss a couple, right? We got beat inside on a couple of times that they counter-moved us. But these guys are extraordinary in their ability to move on to the next play. They focus and then refocus. So their mental approach to the game is so far above any freshman that I'm used to having. They generally, have that look in their eyes right about now that they're done. These guys are anxious for more, and that's unusual.
Brian, that Ole Miss runs that kind of Baylor offensive scheme, the old Baylor.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities.
I guess because they have so much success in the run game, what does that kind of scheme do that makes stopping the run so difficult?
Well, it's perimeter based. The ball's trying to get out on the perimeter, but you now have a quarterback that if you're spreading yourself thin on the perimeter, he strikes down the heart of your defense. So, and then they've got a great play action game, and Mingo's 6'3", 6'4", 225 pounds. He's a matchup nightmare. So, when your safeties are dropping down, you're trying to load the box, you're trying to, defend the perimeter. Now they've got one-on-one matchups that they can throw the football. So, Auburn was trying to stop, the passing game, and then they were a little soft to the run game. They run for 400 yards. You cannot win games giving up 400 yards rushing. So, well, you can, but you're playing the game, up and down the field. So it's just it's an offense that has been set up, obviously to, force the ball outside, but they have a quarterback now that can run it so effectively as well. They threw the ball last year because they had a great quarterback in Corral. This is a different quarterback, and so that's what Lane does well. He's going to set his offense based upon who the player is. It's not about plays, it's about players for him, and he changes based upon who he has, and he's got a quarterback that is a real dual threat.
Coach, Ole Miss's running game has gotten a lot of the credit this year. Obviously ran for over 400 yards last week. But what have you seen out of Jackson Dart in that passing game for what you've seen so far?
Well, he's a pure, if he was in a different, and I've played against him, in a pure passing spread offense. He's a beautiful thrower of the football. He is, California, throw the football. He has all those traits. But he's also athletic enough and can run that they've put him now in a system where he becomes a dual threat. So, we've played Hooker. We've played Richardson. We're going to play Jefferson. These are big-bodied, thick, physical quarterbacks, right? That are not, look, they're all really good quarterbacks that can throw, but they don't throw like this kid. This kid has the ability to drop back, 50 times if they wanted to, and throw the football.
Hey, Coach, about Josh Williams, he's just an incredible story, a former walk-on, and in a performance where Jaden Daniels had 6 touchdowns, he had 6 straight offensive touchdowns in the first 6 possessions. Why was it important to give the game ball to Josh Williams for his play on Saturday night?
So the theme all week was attention to detail, and so his attention to the smallest of details in that game helped us win, and I wanted to make sure that kind of was followed up, with the game ball. We asked our back to chip a lot, off those defensive ends to help those young tackles that we just talked about. And, he's not 6'2". So when you talk about him having to chip, he's got to leave his feet to chip. But he was outstanding at it. He stopped the charge of defensive ends, caught the ball coming out of the backfield, picked up blitzers, actually picked up the defensive end by himself a couple of times when we missed a slide, ran the ball coming out in the third quarter with authority that gave us great momentum. Just a little bit of everything. All the little jobs that you ask him to do, he does them, and sometimes he does them for the first time. That's over 100 yards for the first time for him. So we wanted to reward him in kind.
Brian, just real quick, Jack Besh and Armani Goodwin, what's their status this week?
Jack is he's day-to-day. He's got the same back situation, which is an L5. It's cranky. Hopefully we can get him up and going. He's a tough guy. Hopefully we can get him loose enough where he can play. And Armani, we're going to practice him on Tuesday and see what we can get. He wants to play, and our doctors have cleared him. We'll see what kind of volume we can get out of him, and hopefully it goes well during the week.
And then when you talk about just like the chunk plays on defense and giving those up, how do you go about cleaning that up? Is it as simple as tackling? Like
you saw it, right? We tried to punch the ball loose twice on Richardson. You got to tackle him. That's a commitment. You got to go and wrap him up and bring him down on the ground. And so that was tackling. We gave up the big play pass where we just need to stay on top. And we did not. We gave up run after the catch, and again, that was a tackling situation. So we just have to be better at tackling. I think if we start there and really focus on just doing our job, we're going to be much better at the defensive end.
I guess I haven't watched in detail every game of how you've been on the sidelines, but it looked like you kind of had like a little cheat sheet or note set with you when you were going through the game. I just was wondering kind of what went into that.
Situational football, mostly situational calls. Mike called a great game, I thought. I'm just looking at situational calls and just reminding the quarterback, talking to Mike, talking to Matt, mostly on situational calls.
Coach, down here, a couple of things. Do you mention to the team at all potentially tying for the West lead this week? And also the Brian Thomas catch that was overturned. Have you gotten a sufficient explanation for that?
No, we won't talk about tying for the West. I think it's too early to talk in terms of that. I think there's just too much football left to be played. What we're going to talk about is how we play better at home in front of our fans against the top 10 team. I mean, our focus will be on ourselves more so than what that means. Then we get a week off to kind of assess, and then we'll kind of put the next 4 weeks kind of in perspective, and maybe we'll start to talk about it from that sense. I have not. There were some things that happened in that game that just, my biggest concern is that we're just slowing the game down. We're already, look, we got to pay the bills. I get it. It's 4-3 with timeouts. That's not going away, or we're going to be, obviously not paying anybody anything. So, but to stop the game for so many reviews and most of them to be the play stands as called, it just takes away the flow of the game. And hopefully it's something that we can look at the end of the season. Maybe it can be instant replay on scoring plays only, or change of possession. And then if you feel like that it's egregious, throw your red flag out there. But it just seems like we're slowing the game down. But that'll be a topic that we can have after the season ends.
Hey, Brian. This is a little layered, but can you explain how you all go through the play call operation? Does Mike have complete autonomy? How involved are you, and were you more involved Saturday than you had been prior?
Mike calls all the good plays, and I call all the great plays. So it comes down from Mike, and Cortez. Obviously, he's got him on the sideline, but they're going through our signalers. So I'm hearing them, and I'm just making look. There's a couple of voices. One, obviously is enough. You can't have 3 or 4 voices when you're getting the play and you're getting into a flow. The one thing, and I've been a play caller, you can't get a million suggestions going. You've got to let a play caller go. And for me, I'm reminding him on whether we're going for it on 4th down and what we need to go for it on 4th down, how many yards. Hey, we're going for it on 4th and 3 here, so you can run it twice. I'll give him suggestions like that during the series. And other than that, kind of allow him to keep in the flow of the game. I'm reminding him of time and timeouts and really time management issues more than anything else. Other than that, play calling it's an art and a science, but you can't get in the way of the art of it.
Hey, Coach, I want to ask you a couple about your specialists there. Ramos, I know he's only tried 6 field goals all year, but that seemed to be a pretty big kick for him, moving forward, a pressure-packed spot. And then Bramlett, I see, is averaging almost 46 yards per punt. So if you could maybe just your thoughts on those 2 guys.
Yeah, I think thanks for asking the question. Damian Ramos, let's put him in that situation, right? I mean, it's loud. That's a big kick, right? That ices the game, and he nails it. Snap was great. The hold was great. The execution was, we've seen, that has to happen too, right? We just could go back to the first week. So the execution was great. The kick was great. But he has been consistent since we put him in camp. We've tried to simulate those the best we can with loud music, and he's been spot on. So we felt really confident in that situation. And Bramlett, as you saw, we made a bit of a change where we directionally kicked a little bit, and he was outstanding. We were pushing that ball closer to the sideline to squeeze our coverage teams into a better location. He's capable of kicking at 50-plus every time. We don't want to stretch out our coverage teams quite as much. So directionally, he was outstanding.
Just two quick ones. Does it feel like this season has flown by to you? And then secondly, facing another fellow analytic-minded coach, do you have to prepare your defense any differently to expect maybe, not necessarily the unexpected, but to be on the field longer?
Yes. We look at all those numbers, and there's some similarities there in terms of making sure our guys understand they're going to be on the field for most of the fourth down situations that are going to be occurring. So we've already had that meeting with the coordinators. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So when you're enjoying what you're doing, it doesn't seem like it's, oh my God, it's October. It just feels like this is, this is what I wanted to do, and it's flying by.
Hey, Coach, right here. With Ole Miss's defense, what are some notable strengths that they have, and what are some things that you guys are going to have to look out for when it comes to that unit?
Well, it's hard to know exactly where the birds line up all the time. It's 3 down, it's 3-3, 3-4. They're playing with a nickel and dime. They're playing some invert. You don't know where some of the pressures. They're striking from the field. They're striking from the boundary. So you got to be on your toes. This is a week where recognition and understanding where it's coming from is going to be really important. So quarterback's is going to have to be on it. He's going to have to slide the right way. Our back's going to have to go coast to coast in some of their read progressions. There's got to be a better attention, in that regard, where sometimes when you're in 4 down, where the overload blitz is coming from, from 4 down situations, because you got to tip it. So you got to lock in on safeties. You got to look for the tells. This just is a week where you got to really do a really good job against them. Good. All right. Thank you.
Head coach Brian Kelly with this week's press conference presented by ASAP. Again, great news for the Tigers. Come off a win over the Florida Gators. Now get set to take on another top 10 team in the Ole Miss Rebels. Great rivalry game coming your way this Saturday with kickoff just after 2:30. We'll take a quick time out. We come back, last news and notes, and then send you on your way. It's the Brian Kelly press conference delivered by ASAP.
We are partners setting a new standard for health. Together, we prove that no matter how battle-tested we are, our spirit remains undefeated. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU are creating transformational change and impacting Louisiana with a new standard for healthcare, research, and education. Together, Our Lady of the Lake and LSU are champions for Louisiana. Together, we roar. Learn more at ololrmc.com/LSU.
Welcome back to our podcast here in the Bayous in Louisiana. We are looking for the exclusive multiplier games from the lottery with Louisiana's very first $20 scratch-off and a top prize of $500,000. Wait a tick. We found it! Hold on. What's that sound? I think I'll get a closer look. Wait!
Hey, that's the Explorer! He found the multiplier games!
Thank you, everyone.
Try all 5 multiplier games. You could win up to $500,000. Must be at least 21 to purchase.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
In the SEC, we sweat the small stuff. The attention to tradition. The preparation for competition. The smallest things can have the biggest impact on this field and a whole host of other fields. To shine among the brightest stars, you have to sweat the small stuff. Because here, it just means more.
This is the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP.
LSU, Ole Miss, Tiger Stadium, Saturday afternoon, nationally televised, the SEC on CBS. We'll get things started for you at 12:30 here on the network with LSU Game Day. Brandon Taylor, Marlon Favorite, and Hunt Palmer will start our day. And Doug Moore and Gordy Rush will join me inside Tiger Stadium for the kickoff. Rebels and Tigers just after 2:30 Saturday afternoon. A matchup of 7-0 Ole Miss, 3-0 in SEC play, and you're fighting Tigers 5-2, 3-1 in conference action. Congratulations, Will Campbell, named co-offensive lineman of the week by the SEC office. Don't forget, coming up this Thursday, we'll have the Brian Kelly Show live at 7 o'clock from TJ Ribs. Hope to see you there. Certainly get a chance to hear from our head coach headed in to the big matchup on Saturday. Also, a reminder, we will be off next week. No Brian Kelly press conference for the off week. We'll return on Halloween, Monday, October 31st, getting ready for, well, the next game on the schedule. Hope to see you at Death Valley on Saturday. Thanks to Gordy Rush. Thanks to you for stopping by. We'll see you back here on Monday, the 31st, for the Brian Kelly press conference delivered by ASAP.
Mark, 10 minutes until airtime.
This has been the Brian Kelly Press Conference, delivered by ASAP, the official mobile ordering partner of LSU Athletics. Download the ASAP app today.